on the message that I'll be preaching this morning, you're going to think, oh, that just come up because of the election. No, indeed. It come up. The Lord gave me that on Tuesday morning before anything happened with the election. Amen? But I want to share some, and I won't be able to say the words, so I'll just say statistics. I never say it right. That's okay. But you know what I'm talking about. And these come from, and you can check these out yourself. You really ought to go to it and look at it. I think you could glean some things by looking at this, but go to the Stanislaus County website and go to election results, and they have election results listed for years and years in the past. But I looked at two of the results that were listed for 2020 and for 2016. So those are presidential elections. This report was made on November the 3rd. So I'm sure they have everything. They're saying all the votes have been counted and things like that on that sheet. So I don't understand how all that works out. If they're still counting things that have come in, or if they already came in. But which election had more people vote in it? 2016 or 2020? 2016 or 2020? We got one vote for 2020 that would say that there were more ballots cast for the presidential election in 2020. Who thinks there were more cast for 2020? If you think more for this year, raise your hand. If you think more people voted this year, you are wrong. You are wrong. Now, listen to this. Right now, or according to this report, November 3rd of this year, there are total registered voters in Stanislaus County of 279,730. In 2016, there were 241,196 registered voters. So in the last 4 years, we've had 3,000 or 30,000 more registered voters. Now, a lot of those people in the last 4 years could have moved out, so that could have changed. But get this. Presidential election in 2016 between President Trump and Hillary Clinton, there were 174,406 ballots cast. 174,000. In this year, with more registered voters, there were only 167,720 ballots cast. Kind of strange, you get more registered voters, and it's supposedly a bigger turnout, but less people vote. Well, look at this. For Hillary Clinton, of all those votes that were counted, she got 81,647,000 votes. President Trump got 78,494 votes. So he was only beaten by Hillary Clinton 4 years ago by 3,100 votes. You're like, well, you know, he still lost. Yeah, but that's not of a big span. Now, in this election between President Trump and President Biden, or Vice President Biden got 84,668 votes, and President Trump got 79,662 votes, a difference of 5,000 votes. Now, if you just take those numbers right there, that means half of everybody that voted for Biden, and half voted for President Trump. But of those, only 1,000 really 1,200 more people voted for President Trump this year than what he did 4 years ago. The next race that you need to go and look, and I didn't look at these, would be for the, in 2016, it was between Jeff Denham and I think an Eggman was running. In 2018, Jeff Denham ran against Josh Harder, and Josh Harder won. This year, it was Josh Harder and Ted Howes. But it's amazing, if I remember right, I'm off the top of my head, so you need to look at this. But remember, we had 167,700 votes cast for the presidential election, Who filled out your ballot? You know, you mark in for the president, then the next one is for Josh Harder, right? They're all like on the same page, kind of. And you all mailed them in, right? Or took them, dropped them off, whatever. It's all on the same sheet of paper. But it's amazing, the number of ballots cast or votes cast don't measure up. It's only like 165,000 ballots were cast for the Josh Harder-Ted House race. You mean like 2,000 people didn't? We're not talking about where they voted for somebody else. Kanye West got like 600 and some votes here in Stanislaus County. Jesse Ventura got 3 votes. He was a write-in vote, I guess. Okay, so we're not counting those. You can look at those. We're talking total ballots cast, and you're losing 2,000 ballots just because somebody didn't mark the next page. And only 60% of the registered voters voted. You're like, Pastor, what are you saying? Something's not adding up. And one reason things didn't go awry here like they did in other places is because you just kind of figure, why cheat here when you kind of know you're going to win anyway? Cheat where it's really going to win you something. But yet we still have these under elections, if you want to call that. I'm not sure that's not what you would call it, you know, like between Ted House and Josh Harder. And there was a bigger gap between them. That doesn't make much sense either. If somebody was going to vote for President Trump, they'd vote for Ted House. You don't split ticket that way. And you go on down through. Be careful when you start going down through and looking at the precincts. Stanislaus County has different precincts to where, you know, somebody in Patterson's not voting for our mayor and someone in Modesto is not voting for Patterson's mayor. So some of those things don't match up. As you just keep that in mind. But go home and do some studying. Go home and do some studying. And everything will be all right. Tonight I'll read you a letter that Brother Brad Cranston, I don't know if you remember him, he was here a few years ago and preached for us and talked to us about, and what do they call it? Praying for America. It's something where they go in and work in the state houses, state capitals, and have prayer meetings and things like that. I'll read you his letter tonight because a lot of people are all distressed because they've called the election for Joe Biden to be the president. The one you need to be praying about right now is the Georgia election between the 2 senators. Because if, and I don't like Republicans and Democrats, but we're more lined up with Republicans than we are Democrats. So if the Republicans keep the Senate, it's not going to be near as bad as what it could be. Okay, did anybody do any homework this afternoon? Did anybody go and look at the election results, the voter results there? Stan County, you can just put Stan County vote, and it has the results there. I just looked at it real brief. Want to share this with you. Remember in 2018, that was a governor's race. Also, that was when Josh Harder beat out Jeff Denham for our U.S. congressman there. So in 2018, there were 159,226 people or ballots that were cast, and registered voters was 247,833. So that was 2 years ago. Now in Stanislaus County, what it's showing for the election results for this past week, there are 279,730 registered voters. So that means that in the last 2 years, you've had 31,897 more people register in the last 2 years. So you think, okay, well, you know, maybe some of them moved away. Okay, yeah, maybe some people did move out of Modesto, but do you think that 20,000 people moved out of Modesto that were voters in the last 2 years? I don't think so. You're like, well, how do you come up with 21,000? Because remember, in 2018, there were 159,226 ballots cast. 2020, just last week, there were 169,000 ballots cast. So only 10,000 more people voted last week than what they did 2 years ago, but you have 31,000 more people registered to vote. Kind of strange, isn't it? I guess 31,000 people or 21,000 people moved out. They're not here. I think if you registered within the last 2 years, it's probably a good chance that you voted. Now, here's something. I did not know this. Remember, Governor Newsom was in a race against a man, I think his name was John Cox. He was a Republican. Between Gavin Newsom and John Cox, Gavin Newsom, Democrat, John Cox, Republican, which one won the vote in Stanislaus County? Nobody knows, right? John Cox, the Republican, got 2,500 more votes in Stanislaus County than what Governor Newsom did 2 years ago, with 159,000 people voting. So let's cut that 31,000 votes, those new registered voters, let's cut them in half. And who do you think they would have voted for? And Mr. Biden beat Mr. Trump by 5,000 votes. Wow. Now, there was a bigger spread between Ted Howes and Josh Harder. But yet, 15,000 votes is a lot of votes. I didn't look to see what the difference was there. 31,000 people registered in the last 2 years. So I think they had the intention of voting. Where did their votes go? Why did only 60%? Now think of this. What was the numbers there? You have a total registered voters of 279,730, 31,000 of which were brand new voters. But the percentage of voters turning out was still around 60%. Now that's here in Stanislaus County in California where, like I said this morning, there's no reason to cheat because you kind of have it figured out anyway. But you know, that's not a truthful statement either, because John Cox won in Stanislaus County 2 years ago. Do you think that President Trump could have won? Did anybody see the rallies before? Okay? You notice, what was a Joe Biden rally like? We have more people than what he did. What could you say about a Trump rally? I would say standing room only. Packed, excited, energized. And that's the way it was around the country. Even when he wasn't there. Exactly. So you got a lot to pray about. Because this week, see, now things start going into court. Just because CNN, just because Fox declares someone as president, they're not the one that does it. It has to come from the Secretary of State from each state. And they have to certify the vote. When they certify that, that means they're accountable for the numbers they're putting out there. Otherwise, that's malfeasance. If I was a Secretary of State with all the attention that they're going to get, I'll guarantee you I wouldn't be signing my name to something that was bogus. But yet the rules don't apply to people in power. Amen? If you don't have a fair election, you don't have freedom. And the opposite of freedom is communism. Now, I don't know if I'll get this quote right or not, but it's attributed to Stalin. I've seen it many times over the last month. Didn't pay much attention to it. But Stalin said, it doesn't matter who votes. What matters is who counts the votes. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Wow. He was a very smart man, but he was a communist. Communists can be smart. They just are, I'll say it this way, they're of the devil. This is no more than spiritual warfare and darkness and deception. And you know who works with that. Amen? If Joe Biden would have won honestly, then I would claim him as my president and pray for him in that way. Okay? And if he was an honorable man, wouldn't you think he would be concerned about the vote being honest? So just keep those things in mind. Amen. I'm glad I'm on the winning side. Amen. Hey, there's no president in heaven. There's no senators in heaven. But there is a king. Amen. And he's not up for vote. Amen. But I submit myself unto him and his rule. Amen. So we're on the winning side no matter what happens down here. I know in whom I believed. Amen.